Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of 31 March 2020, coming to you today in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, observing social distancing and staying at home whenever possible and all that stuff. I think it's time to look at a knife. Yeah. You see before you my little recreation of Mount Rushmore, the Mount Rushmore of knives. And I stole this thought, giving credit where credit is due, from the KnifeWorks website listing for the knife we're talking about today, the Benchmade 940-2001. So the Mount Rushmore of knives, you're looking at it right now, the Mount Rushmore of knives. Out front, the Chris Reeve Sebenza, the knife that ushered us all from the traditional pocket knife age to the modern folder age with its titanium frame lock, the often imitated, never duplicated locking mechanism we know as the frame lock nowadays was originally called, and still is by Chris Reeve and Spyderco, by the way, the Reeve Integral Lock. Next, we have, in the Thomas Jefferson spot, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Apparently, over the last 10 years or so, people who collect, use, and appreciate folding knives love the Paramilitary 2. Why do I know that? Because, well, gosh, in the last 7 years or so of sharpening your knives for a fee, it's probably the Paramilitary 2 and its derivatives, meaning all the special editions, all the sprint runs, all the different blade steels and handle materials, and maybe even including the Para 3. It's one of the top 2 knives in volume that I sharpen. Everybody has a Paramilitary 2. Everybody has a Paramilitary 2 or 5. Next, carved into the side of my leather mountain is the topic of conversation for this video. The Benchmade 940, designed by Warren Osborne, first manufactured 20 years ago, year 2000. Some regard it as the perfect pocket knife with its 3.4-inch blade and 4.4-inch handle, or for those of you in America, that's a 3 7/16 blade and a 4 7/16 inch handle. A svelte weight of about 2.6 ounces, 2.7 ounces. Ultimately flippable, flickable, closable without much effort. Great proportions, great handle, super great utility blade. It's just an awesome pocket knife. That is the number one volume knife that I sharpen. If you count the original green 940, the dealer exclusive 940s, the special color 940s, the carbon fiber 940-1, all those. The 940 platform is absolutely the number one volume knife that I sharpen for a living. And then around the right corner there, watching over all of them, in the position of Abe, is the Buck 110. You're looking at my 1980, last year of the 440C Buck 110. And that's it. That's Mount Rushmore. And that brings us to the topic of today's knife review. Well, there she is, boys. An unassuming, normal blue class box. 940-2001. Wouldn't think much of that, would you? Well, inside it comes this thing of beauty. Not only is it 20 years since the advent of the original, it's also been 3 years since the passing of the father of this knife, Warren Osborne. So let's talk a little bit about Warren, because he certainly deserves some airtime on this channel. Warren Osborne, a native Australian who emigrated to the United States in the 70s, I believe. He was a farmer, a rancher, came to live in Texas, USA, and he became a horse trainer, and he also had a lifelong fascination with sharp things. And he became sort of a self-taught amateur knife maker. And he became a maker of custom knives that were frankly works of art. Became a journeyman knife maker, part of the Knife Makers Guild, eventually sat on the board of the Knife Makers Guild. He was a founding member and director of Blade Sports International and one of the most prolific champions in blade sports. He was the mentor of another great BSI, Blade Sports International champion, Donovan Phillips, good friend of mine. And he designed the 940 for Benchmade, among other knives. The Benchmade Contago and other 9 series knives that bear a family resemblance to this one. The 950 Rift, one of my favorites. Super skinny slicer. So yeah, 2020, the 20th anniversary of this knife, Benchmade decides to do a limited edition run of a pretty special knife. 2,000 pieces in toto for the limited edition 940-2001. And for those of you who have never been able to figure out these dash numbers in Benchmade dealer exclusives and limited runs, the first 2 digits are the last 2 digits of the year, so 20 in this case. And then they are sequentially numbered. This one, 2001, so it's the first special 940 of this calendar year. And let's just take a look at it, shall we? I know you've been staring at it as I've been waving it around here. But we have a blade in standard 940 profile, but this is CPM S90V from Crucible. Finish is pretty standard for S90V on a 940, the same blade finish that the 940-1 has. It's sort of an acid stonewash over that normal Benchmade satin. We have our trademark 940 swedge, trademark 940 reverse tanto point. In this case, we've been blessed with some crimson red hard anodized aluminum thumb studs and corresponding hourglass backspacers. We also have what apparently has become the darling of the Benchmade consuming community, the Shorty deep carry clip a la Bug Out. Yeah, it works well, it's the right size, it carries deep, super strong, what's not to like? And then you have this beautiful handle. Gorgeous glass beaded 6AL 4V titanium. And notice, would you, a much simpler milling pattern on the titanium than they get with the aluminum handle or even the carbon fiber or G10. Just slab-sided with a wide chamfer and flat at the spine. We have added a little bit of jimping on the spine of the handle. And I guess it comes in a little handy if you're using that reverse grip. Weight up to about 3.3, 3.4 ounces on the titanium version. A little heavier than the aluminum and a lot heavier than the carbon fiber. Super cool. This is the first one I've actually had in for sharpening. This comes from my sharpening customer, David. And I think he was pretty happy to send it along. It came with an unmolested factory edge brand new knife. It's a little sharper now than it was. Let's see if I can find a piece of paper here. Oh, yeah. So S90V, a little bit of a strange animal as far as steels go. Similarly to CPM M4, it kind of likes to be a little bit toothy. So I sharpen these at standard Benchmade angles, 18 degrees per side, with about a 21 little kiss of a micro bevel. But I stop at 1100 grit on S90V and then just strop real quick at 2 microns. So not not a super mirror polish on the S90V. I don't believe it really likes it, and I don't think it holds up quite as well with it. It likes sort of exposed sharp carbides, you know. And it's a grabby little thing with that finish on it. Let's see how they do on the blade. When I look at 940s, because the blade is so shallow top to bottom, how they did the main bevel grind at the factory and the factory edge are maybe a little more important than some other knives with broader blades. The reason I say that is because every little bit of material on that narrow blade is valuable. So if the factory sharpener kind of fought it a little bit and he had to maybe take a few more passes than he wanted to get a good edge, we end up with a blade with a lot of material sharpened away. It starts to get fat. We start to lose our sharpening choil. So I always look for a long tip, a deep beard, so the distance from the top of the choil to the cutting edge, and I look for an edge without any recurve. Now, I did have to extend the sharpening choil just a little bit to make sure it was straight all the way to the back. But it's one of the best 940 blades from the factory I've ever looked at. And I actually have 2 of these in right now, and the other one is pretty much the same. So they did a nice job. Let's look at our centering. Again, they did a super job on centering, and then 0 blade play, and we got free swing in action, just how an axis lock Benchmade ought to be, and it is. Now they made 2,000 of these, and it looked like they spread them around to the dealers quite a bit, but everybody's out. They sold, I believe, for web price of about $340. Benchmade, I think, posted an MSRP, which is always inflated, of $400. I believe I saw one little tiny website nobody ever sees that had one in stock for $349 not too long ago. But now they're pretty much a secondary market knife. And I was looking at completed listings on eBay last night before I made the video, and it looks like they're selling just a little bit above original web price. There are some listed right now for ridiculous prices, like $600 or $700. I'm not sure anybody's going to pay that. But you know, they're not super rare. 2,000. They're going to be desirable. I think as the market settles, they're going to creep up, unless of course Benchmade decides to make other titanium handle variants, which is always a possibility. How does it work in the hand with that titanium handle? You know, it feels a little more substantial than a regular 940. I don't think the slab-sided handle is quite as comfortable as the scalloped handle on the original, but it's not uncomfortable either. Pretty cool. This might be my new favorite clip. Is it more desirable to me than the vaunted Parkerized split arrow? Oh man, it's close. It's really close. I think it likes to tuck a little, you know, it gets that initial, it breaks over the, you know, the seam of your jeans a little better with that slightly broader tip of the clip. Does it have any more lift? Yeah, it might have. I don't know. They're about the same in lift. Both great clips. Both great clips. I don't care if that does look like an anatomical part. It's still a great clip. But I think this clip works super well. Kind of a tumbled finish on that polished stainless clip. Nice. So if you can buy one of these for, you know, not highway robbery price, definitely worth having in the collection. And you know, how much is a 940-1 now? Are they $265 or something? Is this worth another $75? I think it is. I think it kind of favors another Mount Rushmore knife just with the finish of the titanium. Maybe that's why they left it flat, kind of giving a tip of the cap to Mr. Reeve. I don't know. Pretty cool. Well, guys, if you don't have one, probably ought to get one. That's it for this one. Just a nice pocket knife. But these two I have in, I'll bet won't be the last. Hope you all are staying safe, maintaining proper distances from other humans. Praying for all of you that you stay well, that you can weather the economic storm that comes as a result of the pandemic. And things will be looking up soon, I'm sure. Have a great rest of your day. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word is sharp. Rest in peace, Mr. Osborne. Hope to see you someday soon.